Hello there, great person, and welcome back to Let's Dive into Warhammer 40k. Today, we are finally witnessing the fall of Cadia, and I decided to do Luetin and Templin Institute. Templin Institute is like 10 minutes. Many people told me it was pretty good, and also many people told me that Templin Institute is currently pushing some stuff for modern audiences, which is something I'm not that interested in, so yeah, but if it's a good video and people said it is, I will still watch it. So I will watch a good video, even if things change on channels. I don't care. Like, if it's a good video, I will watch it. So I will watch Templin. I will watch Luetin after that, and we'll see what Fall of Cadia actually is about. And yeah, some self-promotion again. If you want to support me a bit, you can check out my new horror story. It's starting on No Sleep currently. You can go to that, pin it in the comments, go there, leave a like perhaps, and yeah, tell me what you think. Also, I will probably start Let's Playing the new Amnesia part, Love Amnesia. Was the first game that really scared me when I played a game, so I'll watch out for a Let's Play of that, a little one, perhaps starting tomorrow. And with that, we will start. So let's hope that Cadia is as tragic as everyone told me it is, and yeah, let's see why Bricky cries so much when talking about it. Let's go. So there we are, Templin Institute. Let's go. Execute Order 66. Not today,
Thanks
though.
to Skillshare for sponsoring this investigation into the fortress world of Cadia.
Yes.
The first 500 people to use the link in the description will receive 2 free months of Skillshare's online classes.
Okay, we don't care. We don't care. The Gothic sect? Where is that?
In the region of Imperial space designated Segmentum Obscurus, there lies an anomaly that has come to be known as the Eye of Terror. It is an enormous rift, a permanent storm in the fabric of reality that for 11,000 years has provided a gateway to the nightmarish realm of the warp.
I remember. It's the origin of that. Oh no, this is gonna go so horribly wrong. I'm ready.
Inside is a dimension of madness and despair,
Slanesh.
where skies weep blood, ancient stars burn in multicolored flares, and the whims of the dark gods hold sway.
Yes.
Since the time of the Horus Heresy, the forces of chaos that reside within have attempted to break out from the Eye of Terror and strike at the millions of worlds that lay beyond.
Yes.
Only one thing has stood in their path.
What?
A fortress world that guarded the only navigable route to the Eye of Terror. A place where time and time again, the servants of the dark gods would break against the greatest defenders of man.
Wow, okay, so I misremembered then. So it is in fact already there, the Eye of Terror. Is the Eye of Terror the thing that got birthed by Slanesh together with Slanesh? Is that like the ashes, are those the ashes of Slanesh's birth cord, umbilical cord, so to speak? And now I wonder why you can only go there from Cadia, because I mean it's 3D space. Then again, it might not be. It might like be a literal hole in space, like and Cadia is in front of the hole, and like if you come from the back, you will like be like gravity lanced around it, so to speak. Yeah, that's probably how it is.
It was a planet known as Cadia.
Cadia!
And it was here above all that the bloody work of the Imperium was done.
Yes.
A terrestrial world closely resembling Holy Terra before the age of the Imperium, Cadia was marked by great oceans, temperate plains, windswept moors, and towering mountains.
Nice.
Cadia was colder than most civilized worlds, yet not enough to impede the planet's settlement.
What about the star? Like, is there a star? Is there Cadia 0 or something like that? How do they name their systems? Is it like Sol A, B, C? No, it is not. We know the planets have names, so how do they name them? I know it's a random question, but if you know, tell me, please.
It was famous across the galaxy for its sparkling glaciers and thick pine forests.
Oh, pine
forests. It was
forest.
the planet's network of strange black monoliths that remained Cadia's most enduring mystery, however.
Those are Necron signs, aren't they? Those are definitely Necron signs.
However, known across the galaxy as the Cadian pylons.
Ah,
When precisely
Necron
Cadia
pylons.
was first colonized has been lost to antiquity, but in the decades before the Horus Heresy, it had become inhabited by a primitive race of violet-eyed humans who worshipped the Chaos Gods. The Word-Bearers Legion and their Primarch, Lorgar Aurelian, was the first to re-establish contact with Cadia, but whatever transpired in these initial meetings might never be known.
Aww.
Lorgar ordered the cyclonic bombardment of the planet, wiping out the native Cadians and whatever secrets they possessed.
Seems that negotiations fell through. But I mean, so did they not comply? Like, did they have their own gods and were not willing to join the belief in the Emperor? Was that why they were nuked from orbit? Perhaps.
With the end of the Horus Heresy, the Word-Bearers and their other traitor legions fled to the Eye of Terror to heal their wounds and nurture their hatred.
Does chaos heal you, or is that how they got their weird-shaped bodies and stuff like that? Does healing mean improving with demonic death?
Black Crusades mounted across the galaxy from the Eye of Terror convinced the Imperium that Cadia was of vital strategic importance, and settlers were sent to the world to claim it in the name of the Emperor.
Why would you send settlers if that place is overrun by God knows what hell spawns?
Cadia was eventually forged into a world worthy of the Imperium, but it was learned at great cost that the planet would forever be threatened, and its entire society would have to reflect that.
Are those titans that are like in rest? They don't look like titans, like these statues. They don't look like titans, but I can really imagine them being something like relics that stand up when they are needed. Old trope, I know, but and I love the architecture again, like the Gothic. Just love some Gothic churches and archways and domes.
Its earliest cities were constructed in the traditional style emulating Holy Terra, but the broad avenues and ordered urban grids favored any attacking force, and sweeping changes were enacted. Cadia could not afford any distinction between its fortresses and cities. Streets were constructed in such a way as to disorient any potential invader, arrayed in zigzag patterns that would force an enemy to fight for every block.
Why? Does that make a lot of sense? Isn't it that, like, how would you, let's say you defend that planet, and you've got this maze structure set up, which is like, for ground troops, it is of course very reasonable to do that, but keep in mind they drop in from orbit, and I am pretty sure they've got reconnaissance and stuff like that, even chaos. So is it that effective, or is it just so, I think I now get why they do it. So it is basically that you take the micro battle management and have it in your favor, because they don't know exactly what happens house to house. They might happen what happens around a city block, like roughly, but not on that detail, and you do know that, and that is why you have the advantage here. That is probably it. So at least that's now my headcanon. That's, I think, reasonable.
Bastions and local garrisons were stationed in every corner and spire that possessed a commanding view, while at the heart of every city was an enormous fortification known in the local dialect as a casser. From the air, these resembled intricate puzzles, which could be held for months, if not years, even if the surrounding city had been taken.
Okay.
Its people were no different than its buildings.
Is that Yorick? Or is it just someone who has the same clothing as Yorick? This is a tech priest, I think. I just try to make sure I slowly get all the names for these things, and the others are Imperial soldiers. And this is that a servitor? Might be something else. Might be just an augmented doofus. And we've got ATSTs here for some reason. I don't know why.
Reorganized into a society wholly devoted to the defense of their world.
Oh, and the knights here. There are
Every
Cadian
was taught the skills necessary to become a soldier from the moment they could walk. Tactical
Sparta!
doctrine was prioritized above basic literacy, and every citizen was required to serve at least a 4-year term in the planet's military before either becoming a career soldier or instead joining Cadia's military-industrial complex.
Okay, so they are like a Cadia is a forge of military that makes sure that it will never run out of defenses. Like, I mean, except for when it's bombarded and eradicated from orbit, of course. But like for ground battles, they try to replenish eventual or potential losses through their culture, which is, yes, I mean, it's not really culture. It's more like their customs. Like, it's not a complete culture yet. It's just the customs that probably the Empire declared to make sure that they hold this goddamn planet against the goddamn hellspawns.
Even the wealthy and successful elite wore clothing reminiscent of the camouflage patterns issued to the lowliest guardsmen. The famed Cadian shock troops were widely regarded as the best soldiers in the Imperial Guard, and some of the most well-equipped. Regiments either formed on Cadia or those emulating its style and doctrine could be found across the entire galaxy. Cadian equipment, in particular, was so ubiquitous that it was nearly the standard of the entire Astra Militarum.
They really give me Spartan vibes, because that's the way mind you, I only had Sparta in like year 9 history lessons, so I might be very rusty and not very precise on that, but I'm pretty sure they were risen to be battle-hardened people that are in the service of the army of the country from the very young age. And they had certain customs that made sure that they have alliance to the country and not or to the government and not their parents, I think. And yeah, I read this passage by I don't know who it was, but some Roman or Greek, or I don't know who it was. He said something like or basically it was like, Spartans do everything in their blood to be the best warriors, to be the best fighters for their cause. And the cause is, of course, Sparta itself. And this really reminds me of that in this philosophy. Perhaps they are descendants of Sparta. I mean, I don't know how much genetic ideas, so to speak, are imprinted, might be hidden or sleeping, and that they can resurrect, so to speak, with gene technology. I don't know that, but it might be something, because this really reminds me of Sparta. And yeah, I might be wrong, but it's a very cool setup. And them having the best Imperial army, so to speak, like the best Imperial troops, also makes that more like makes me think that more.
For millennia, the planet stood as an unshakable foundation that challenged the will of the dark gods themselves. Every invasion was shattered, and every Black Crusade was repelled. But in the 999th year of the 41st millennium, Cadia was finally broken.
Okay, before we go there, why don't they fly around it? Where exactly is it looking? I'm still having a bit of trouble understanding the setup, because I'm pretty sure things from the warp can spread the warp like around it. Like, wouldn't you just surround Cadia with the warp and then like crush it with the warp if you were a chaos god? Or don't they plan like that? Because Siege surely would plan like that, I guess. I mean, I don't know a lot about Siege, but that's something I could imagine him doing, so I don't know. We will see, but yeah, so how is that exactly? Like, why is a planet holding, like, it doesn't have a infinite wall around it to like seal off the eye, so how does it work exactly? But yeah.
Abaddon the Despoiler, greatest champion of chaos since Horus himself, launched the 13th Black Crusade.
The 13th.
In the opening moments, elements of the planetary guard turned traitor, assassinating Cadia's high command, its governor, and Lord Castellan.
How? I mean, it's basically what I just said. They like surrounded with the war, but more figuratively. But yeah, okay, so they had some ding-dongs they pulled on their side. Which is like, how though? Don't they have measures against that? Perhaps they failed. I would love to know why the measures failed.
a reformed defense now under the command of Ursarkar E. Creed, were able to contain this initial assault, but the Black Crusade was just beginning. In orbit of the planet, an enormous Chaos Armada traded blows with the warships of Battlefleet Cadia, all while reinforcements swept across Cadia's skies before joining in battle against the planet's beleaguered defenders.
I see. So they had a very big battle fleet. I could have seen that. It's on me. So that's how they held it, and the space around it, of course. Of course. It's like Hell's Reach. They had this giant battle there in space as well because they control the whole system. So I guess it's like that here too.
Mysteriously, it was not the famous fortress cities of Cadia that appeared to be Abaddon's primary target, but rather the large network of pylons, particularly those within the Elysian fields.
Ooh, why?
What precisely happened there can only be guessed at, but some claim that for a brief moment, servants of the Imperium working with ancient Xenos managed to activate the Cadian pylons. The forces of chaos were seemingly cut off from the warp, and even the Eye of Terror was said to shrink.
Oh my god, it was an old Necron technological facility that could attack the warp, or... I mean, Necron are immune to the warp. Save perhaps for these Skyar or whatever they are. I think there are parallels to the warp there. But so they had Necron pylons, and the Necron pylons were an ancient weapon by Necrons against the warp, which is like... Is that like... Was that asked? So it's probably not Necrons that designed that. It was probably even Satan telling the Necrons to design that, because we have to remember the Satan fought the old ones, and the old ones were warp beings, which is something I think is likely here. That's so cool. Good old Necron saved the day again.
By the order of Abaddon, however, an enormous blackstone fortress struck Cadia with the force of an artificial meteor. The planet's continents were split apart, its ancient forests burned away. The few who managed to evacuate the dying world bore witness not only to the destruction of Cadia, but to the expansion of the Eye of Terror across the entire galaxy.
Oh no, was the Necron device also holding back the eye? Okay, so they have an invisible wall even. Like all the things I was thinking about, they probably do have that through Necron technology in part. Wow. I mean, that thing looked big, but I think you would need a meteorite of like 5, 6 to 20 kilometers diameter to really F something up. And I mean, to melt the crust of a planet, at least that's what it seems they did. It's like, Jesus Christ, you need so much power there. Like, it's almost like perhaps they dropped the equivalent of a dwarf planet on them. Like just a structure. Wow, I wonder where they got that from.
With the fall of Cadia, the forces of chaos had won a victory that for millennia had been almost unimaginable.
Yeah.
Tendrils of the warp have split the galaxy in two, and there is little doubt that the Imperium has entered the time of ending. But the ultimate triumph of Abaddon the Despoiler still eludes him. The fall of Cadia has awakened something in the Imperium more powerful than even its greatest fortress.
What?
A hunger for retribution has swept across every world.
Yes.
Cadia has become a martyr whose memory has spurred humanity to ever greater feats of valor.
Yeah.
If a creature like Abaddon is still capable of experiencing even a tinge of fear, then he must be haunted by the fact that in destroying Cadia, he has added 1 trillion fallen saints to the highest pantheon of the Imperium.
Wow, it's so badass.
Even as the planet split apart and its shattered remnants were consumed by the Eye of Terror, the red streaks of firing lasguns could still be seen in the darkness. Defenders of Cadia refusing to give in, even as their world cracked and burned around them.
Wow.
From their sacrifice has arisen a new battle cry. One shouted in hatred from the Arctic steppes of Valhalla to the deadly jungles of Cadia.
Oh, they have Valhalla.
A simple phrase that ensures the memory of Cadia will remain for as long as humanity endures. The planet broke before the guard.
Wow. That made me curious. Okay. Okay, that was brilliant.
Thanks.
Yeah, there's a skill share. Let's see if I don't care. Okay, there are people telling me stuff I don't care about. Wow, that was brilliant. Love it. Love Cadia, mates. That's so good. So good. We've got one more, but I have to compose myself a bit. I'm a sucker for like emotional, emotional heroic stuff like that. Like that's the stuff. So, yeah, Cadia. I get it now. I get now a lot more. Though I'm sure Luetin will in a moment tell me more detailed stuff. I like the Abaddon dude. Was that a picture of him? I have to look out for that in the Luetin video. I want to know more about Abaddon. I think someone told me before, didn't Sanguinius fight him? But I might misremember that. And is he still alive? So it was like a cork. Is it called that? Like a cork on the bottle? Cadia was a cork on the bottle of hell for some time. Yeah, okay, that was brilliant. Let's actually go to the next one. Gonna like this one. Yeah, that was just a cool video. The heroic ending was very nicely done. Very, very heartfelt in a way. Very, very heroic. And I like that stuff. I really do like that stuff. Because, I mean, I hate war, but like real war, but you need heroes in every age. Every age needs its heroes, and those were the heroes of that age, which, yeah, don't stand down. That reminds me of Manethran a lot. Like if you read Wheel of Time, and you will know what I mean. Reminds me of Manethran. If you're interested in Wheel of Time reading, I read that every other day. About, like, I sometimes not, but yeah. Anyway, let's go to Luetin. Let's see what he expands upon, and let's see what he says about Cadia and its fall. Let's go. Let's go, let's go, let's go. The grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. The Omnisire filled the galaxy with mysteries, so that we might learn from them, coming step by step closer to his perfect being. To ignore them, even in the face of war, is heresy. From Arch Magos Belisarius Call. I think I've heard that one before. So the Omnisire, wasn't the Omnisire the machine god thing? Yes, it seems a bit like that, like learning that seems machine god-like. Let's see.
I now return to and continue my series looking at the planet types, conditions and installations of the Imperium of Man.
Okay, so if there's another good one of this, tell me. I might react to that as well.
The Imperium encompasses so many worlds that it's believed they are far from all accounted for. It is considered the Imperium currently constitutes over 1 million worlds. The Adeptus Terra holds that the whole human race is under the exclusive rule of the Emperor of Man, and as such one of the ongoing quests carried out by the Imperium remains to locate and unite lost human colonies, just as it did during the Crusades. While the Imperium of Man wields immense power through its military forces, a common misunderstanding is to assume that all its worlds are well defended, and any incursion will result in an apocalyptic defensive struggle.
Yeah, I got that as well from the Infinite and the Divine. I got the impression that, like, these situations like Hell's Reach, like Cadia, are not the common one. Like, there are smaller skirmishes, there are smaller struggles, and this is not something that is happening every day, of course, because that would make sense resource-wise. I think so, yeah.
This is not the case at all. The size of the Imperium and its territory means that it cannot react to every circumstance. Sometimes it may not even receive distress communications until after the fact.
Yeah, that's A because of the warp, and B because of the warp, and C because of the warp. Reminds me of the Horus Heresy, where they were too late in parts because of warp stuff.
By which point arriving relief ships will discover a long since ravaged colony or the aftermath of a terrible industrial disaster, leaving little to do other than take note and return home.
Yeah.
Some events may even take centuries to be relayed to Terra. This makes the ongoing management and organisation in the Imperial territory understandably challenging.
Don't they have entanglement? Don't they have entanglement? With entanglement, you probably... Nah, I'm just joking. With entanglement, you can't communicate. That's just a myth. It's just a very big myth. You can't. One of the biggest myths, and yeah, I did some research on that. Most people think with quantum entanglement you can like teleport information. No, you can't. Can't. So yeah, that's actually pretty cool that this problem of communication, which is often skipped over a bit in sci-fi, is very realistic here. Like, you have to travel with messages. You might use the warp. I think some people, some psychers might communicate, but the warp is like this warp field is like something that connects everything. And I'm not going to go into the force parallels now, but and that's how people can communicate. But it's also distorted, and it makes a lot of sense. And it's probably more realistic than the instant transmission stuff we have in Star Trek or Star Wars. So
the borders of the Imperium are currently moving, with new worlds conquered and colonized, while others are quietly or violently lost. Within this flux of territory exists planets designated as the War Planets. Unlike the more calm and civilized planets in our previous overview, the War Planets, generally speaking, would be considered a nightmare to live in. Even the Forge, Armory or Fortress worlds are not going to be generally somewhere you'd want to be.
Yeah, because they're all Spartans.
And the less said about the Hive and War actual worlds, the better. A Forge world is a planet designated to the production of Imperial military resources.
A Forge world is a world of fortress. I'm so sorry, that's a bit on the nose. Like, I like it, but yeah, I mean, you don't have to explain that, Luetin. I understand the concept of what you just said.
They are under the direction and control by the Adeptus Mechanicus, and this is the official Imperial title for the Cult Mechanicus, or Cult of the Machine. This was the group with which the Emperor would forge his unique alliance in the early formation of the Imperium, and who stands with distinct separated rights and self-regulation given to them by the Emperor in return for their support with their vast stockpile of assets during the early days of the Imperium.
Yes, also too, I thought about it again from the video about the pilgrimage to Terra. It's very remarkable that they have two planets so close to each other that are the center for giant belief systems. Like, we've got the Adeptus Mechanicus, which is like some belief system in a way, and we've got Earth next to it, which is of course the God Emperor belief system. So very, very nice. I like that. It makes the solar system culturally incredibly important.
They serve under the Treaty of Mars instead of the Imperial Creed, and this allows them to follow their own path and teachings, including the worship of the mysterious deity they call the Machine God, or the Omnissiah. They regard organic substances as weak and perceive the replacement of the organic with bionic mechanical elements as sacred. Many of
and again, the mention of this is freaking disgusting what they do to their bodies, and I don't find this aesthetically pleasing. Like, why do you have 3 eyes and a hunchback and steam coming out of your behind? Oh, he does not have that. He just has a weird skull on his weird exhaust pipe thing here. Like, so weird and creepy. So weird. Reminds me a bit of Soma as well. Brilliant game, by the way, from the Amnesia makers as well. I can't wait to play Amnesia tomorrow. But yeah, this is like, I love the steampunk designs, these creatures, and but whew.
If the old tech priests on Mars are more machine than man, the Imperium's strict rulings regarding AI are potentially bent by the Mechanicus out of the sight of Imperial rulers.
They are probably using circuitry implanted into their brains, and enhance neuronal pathways and stuff like this. That I guess. I mean, that is something, by the way, which happens during puberty to our brains. The nerves get more coated in this substance, and they get more conductive, and so you can react better, and you can think quicker and have better like pattern recognition through that. And that is why after puberty you get a bit. I guess one of the reasons, except from growing up in general, that you get a bit cleverer after puberty or during puberty. And they probably did dial that up to 11. Like they probably enhanced all the pathways and like use conductors to make things better in certain places. That's very cool.
Mars was the very first Forge world of the Imperium, and here the Mechanicus are the sole rulers, but across many Forge worlds they remain sole rulers. They and their Forge worlds across the Imperium provide heavy support and armament for Imperial forces. The Mechanicus itself wields massive armies of Titans, as well as their own force known as the Skitarii. Forge worlds provide hardware not only purely military based, but also agricultural equipment, terraforming apparatus, basically anything infrastructure related.
How do they terraform? And by how, I mean what scale? Is it like you drop a nuke and 2 days later it's a green planet? Or is this a process over millennia they just accelerate? Or how does it work? I would love to know that.
Mechanicus are obliged, as described in their ancient treaties with the Emperor, to provide whatever the Adaptus Terra require. Forge worlds are in essence immense factory installations, both above and below ground. They may also constitute mining operations on the planet itself. This is often why a planet was originally set up as a Forge world. They also contain training and research facilities, even religious structures for the Mechanicus.
That makes a lot of sense, that you would take a mining planet that's very rich in a very I don't know the word, fancy metals, like noble metals. I just don't know the English word, like gold and silver and platinum and stuff like that. And they probably use, I mean, you've used gold in circuitries. Perhaps they have designed other conductors as well. Probably they have. And I mean, that's very good to start forges there, because you can also mine the equipment and the material for computational devices and stuff.
Forge worlds are heavily defended and unlikely to fall to anything other than an exceptionally heavy, ferocious and well-planned attack.
Yeah.
The Mechanicus' cybernetically enhanced Skitarii warriors defend them, backed up by Titan legions on all Forge worlds.
Oh, looking at that, if you want to show off a bit your painted your painted figures, you can post them on the Discord in the Warhammer channel. There were some pretty cool ones shared today, and I really loved them. And if you just want to show off some of your stuff, it's like I would be very interested, and other people seem interested as well. So feel free to post it there. Discord link is of course in the channel description, and I will also post it in the comments and pin it together with the story you should definitely upload.
Making them an incredibly foolish target to assault for any Imperial enemies. The Adeptus Mechanicus generally do not allow non-Mechanicus personnel onto Forge worlds. Only tech priests, Skitarii, and the sad drone labour force known as Servitors. Servitors are mindless cybernetic drones created by fusing humans with machine parts. They're usually lobotomized also in the process.
I mean, that's good. Like, at least they don't... At least they will not feel like whatever the frick they did here to him. Or her. Not touching. I don't know what this was. Like, now it's a blob. Now it's a blob with a face that's like covered in metal. It's just a shit face now. I mean, if they're lobotomized, at least they don't feel anything. Like their cognition is gone, so...
Now, servitor bodies can be vat-grown, or more disturbingly, they could be criminals who have been judged and sentenced to repay their crimes to society by mindless slave labour in the form of a servitor.
Oh, this reminds me of the Doctor Who episode where the, what were they called? It was a Tenant episode. where they had the spheres and the heads in the spheres with the master. It was End of Time. No, it wasn't. It was Last of the Time Lords. Last of the Time Lords, but I don't remember the planet. They wanted to go to Utopia, and they were all turned into these things, like just heads and pain. And yeah, that was very creepy, well done. And like this image here, that's harrowing. That is like so scary and creepy, like it's pure body horror. Yeah, wow, I hate that.
Once their minds are turned to mush, the painful operations of installing bionic machine elements to their bodies will be completed. Even heretics are given a chance to serve the Imperium after they have been judged, the lucky things. Surprisingly, even some Space Marine recruits can be converted to the servitor role, but will only serve their chapter as a more respectful and honorary servitor role.
Oh my god, that looks so scary. Oh, that looks so scary because their anatomy is so bulky and they are so, you know, it's so uncanny. I hate it. I love it.
The Mechanicus, though, also wield the most feared servitor class, the Praetorian Servitors, a class of heavily armed servitor used by the Mechanicus in guarding tech priests and their temples to the machine god. A Forge world will usually have no ecosystem to speak of. This will have long since been completely destroyed, deemed unnecessary and often overwhelmed by the scale of industry. As such, Forge worlds are usually desolate and lifeless other than the factory and defensive installations sprawling across their surface. Pollution both in the air and land will be at saturation levels, and surface bodies of water will usually be deliberately evaporated away to make room for further production sites.
And also to not let rain F up everything.
All hardware produced across Forge worlds is replicated with an existing pattern. This enables Forge worlds to ensure standardization across its production.
But you might run into the Asgard problem. You copy and copy and copy and copy, and then your copy will corrupt.
Obviously, a really important necessity for any hardware that's going to be deployed, repaired, and interchanged across vast armies and territory. Hence why you see some Imperial assets with names like the Mars Pattern Warhound Titan. Notable Forge worlds across the Imperium are Mars, the home world of the Adeptus Mechanicus, the Imperium's first Forge world. Risa, which is said to be second only to Mars, once famous for its plasma weapon production, it was renowned for manufacturing plasma reactors and magnetic containment tech. It also was the first to produce the Stormblade super heavy tank used by Imperial Guard. Risa currently though now faces an ongoing battle of survival against a ferocious orc warg, numbering in the hundreds of millions of deployed orcs on the planet.
What? No, I'm not gonna shout that into your ear, but yeah, a warg can be quite a problem.
This ongoing battle of attrition is far from won. Agrippina was a primary supplier of military stock to the fortress world of Cadia. It's also known as the Orb of a Million Scars. At present it stands in ruin due to the ongoing assault by Chaos forces. While it still stands, it faces eventual defeat, with little agriculture worlds able to survive and support it.
That's also the problem. If they manage to cut you off, it's just a very long and slow and painful death.
Trebor served exclusively Cadia. Its most renowned production was the Vanquisher cannon, which was a more complex version of the Imperial battle cannon used on Imperial Guard tanks like the Leman Russ, the most powerful of all these variants. It was colonized by citizens from Terra and Mars, and as such became one of the most technologically advanced of all Forge worlds. It was rediscovered by Commissar Yarrick during the Second War for Armageddon, and as such would swear allegiance to him. Phaeton is home to the Legio Osedax, a little known about Titan Legion likely founded during the Great Crusade. It also was the Forge world noted as the originator of the common pattern Leman Russ tank, a heavily utilized Imperial Guard piece of hardware.
Leman Russ, I have heard that before. Please remind me who that was.
Phaeton also managed to produce in the 38th millennium a variant hull of Space Marine Land Raider. Outwardly, its appearance was the same as a normal Land Raider, but internally it had a very different and higher spec. Investigations by Mechanicus determined that the automated factories were operating under a deep core protocol that had taken millennia to cycle through. No
Oh.
tech priest had ever witnessed this before, and it was also determined that at the dawn of the Imperium, a Magi had coded a slow-burning algorithm into the Forge's automation sequences so that it would produce variants of common patterns according to his cognitive calculations to what he would perceive the Imperium was going to require.
I see. Okay. That makes sense. That is that's brilliant. That makes sense, and that is needed. Because we have not extensively talked about that before, but basically it's all rotting because we can't create anymore in this time. We are reliant on the old technologies from the Golden Age, and this is one of the things that might help them out a bit, at least to survive longer, because you need adaptation. Like that's the you need to have it. It is debatable on how much you need in each given situation and time, but you always need adaptation. And if you don't have that, you just die out. It's like evolution. If you're static, like, I don't know, it's like, imagine it's freezing and you develop a fur, and then suddenly it's burning hot and you all die because you don't adapt to the hotness now. Like, it's the equivalent of that, but a lot more complex and abstract, of course. But so I guess these long thinking algorithms will ensure that at least some parts are variable in what they produce. And I like that a lot. It's a very small nuanced detail here, but it's very clever.
Phaeton as a Forge world would go on to produce more variants of Space Marine hardware, and as such a subcult of Mechanicus has formed around the Forges of Phaeton. They devote maintenance and reverence to its facilities, and some wish to enshrine and worship its new productions. But others believe these holy machines should be released into service to achieve their true potential. This cult potentially poses a dangerous risk of a split within the tech priests on Phaeton and a potentially destabilizing situation of production from this Forge world.
Okay.
Armory worlds are utilized by the Adeptus Munitorum. This is a subdivision of the Adeptus Administratum, and
why? Just why? Why do they have these creepy baby faces that look like they... Oh man, I hate that. That looks like a baby. I know it's probably ancient, but it looks like a freaking baby. And then this, whatever the frick this is, I mean, look at it. Oh, it's so disgusting. What even is that? Why are the weird skull things attached by one big wire tube thing? Why? Oh god, that is so disgusting and so creepy.
is designated to general administration. Personnel assignments, supply, logistics of the Imperial Guard, that kind of thing. The Munitorum have the responsibility of raising Imperial Guard regiments, training troops, providing equipment and supplies out in the field, as well as transportation of troops using ships from the Imperial Navy. It's primarily a logistical segment of the Imperium. Armory worlds will be understandably heavily defended as they store weapons, vehicles, ammunition and other military hardware required by the Imperium.
Is that not also a target? Like, wouldn't that blow up easier? I don't know.
They will likely have stockpiled armoured vehicles in the tens of thousands and millions of tons of munitions and other necessary resources for supporting and resupply. Its storage facilities are housed usually underground behind immense heavy-duty blast doors.
I remember this from the War on Armageddon. They had that, where the one weapon they found, the one Mechanicus dude found, it was behind one of those blast doors. I love blast doors. That's so cool.
Its internal climate maintained to ensure equipment can be kept for hundreds, even thousands of years until the Imperium requires it. Some armory worlds end up storing equipment for such extended periods of time that the Mechanicus or Guard forces will actually lose the knowledge on how to use it, such as the comically dystopian dark nature of the Imperium. An example of something like this would be the Valdor Tank Hunter. It was developed during the Horus Heresy as a weapon to help counter the land raiders of the traitor Space Marine legions. And it is equipped with a neutron laser projector. a weapon capable of destroying its targets at a molecular level. This weapon was actually developed during the Dark Age of technology, so subsequently very few Forge Worlds are able to actually replicate or even maintain them.
Yeah, that again, there it is again. What I just said. It's like all decomposing and being forgotten in time.
It's now considered an ancient relic in the 41st millennium, as they are no longer able to be constructed. However, Dark Mechanicus forces are known to have captured some during the heresy, leading to a concerning prospect that Chaos forces might actually be able to discover how to replicate them in the future.
Oh no. Oh, Hive Worlds.
Hive Worlds are one of the most well-known planet types in the Imperium.
Yeah.
These accounted worlds number somewhere over 30,000 in the current Imperium territory. The populations are so immense that they live in gargantuan arcologies known as Hive cities.
Yeah, and they look like mountains and I love it. I just love that. It's so beautiful and yet so eerie. And so alien, but still so familiar. I love it. I love these designs. Like there is something is very Lovecraftian about this as well, because he always spoke of Cyclopean cities and stuff like that. And this is definitely a Cyclopean city, and I feel like there is a lot of dark hidden horror in that we don't even know. It's just like aesthetically I love it, like, and also the coloring or the grading or whatever you say of this one, it looks so cool.
To give you an idea of the size of a Hive world, it is said in the Imperium that the sacrifice of 1 million Imperial soldiers is worth about 1 day's worth of a Hive world's production. So a warm reminder of just how unimportant you are as a citizen of the Imperium.
Yeah.
Your life is not going to be missed.
Nope.
The outside terrain and ecosystem of a Hive world is usually destroyed, and as such they represent depressing images for a planet.
Why though? Why are they destroyed? Are they purposefully destroyed? So that they have, in the worst case, enough space for people being born there? Something like that?
Ruined worlds where people usually sustain a living in just these vast settlements towering into the skies. The planets themselves probably began as viable, even lush, but over time through pollution, irradiation, they are ashen wastes or deserts through unending industrialization.
I see, okay.
So it forced the hives to be entirely self-contained, housing tens of billions of citizens.
Do they eat their dead? I'm sorry, I have to ask that, because that's something that comes to mind. It's either that they are like Earth and every second, I think 10,000 ships or whatever, land and unload cargo and food and stuff like that for them to survive, or they're Soylent Greenest people or whatever it is. Like, yeah. Ugh.
This population will potentially double every century, with a hive generally containing anywhere between 10 to 100 billion people.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's probably not funny to you, but wouldn't that be a great math question? So if you're watching and if you're still in school and you've got exponential functions, this is an exponential function, and you can actually. Yeah, it's just like, because in my field of work, they always look for good examples that motivate people to learn calculating stuff, and this would be one. Like, suppose you have a hive city with 1 million people, and it doubles in size every second generation. How many generations does it take until the population reaches more than 100 million and the planet will be unsustainable? Would that be a great textbook exercise? I would love that. Like, if I was a teacher, I would do stuff like that. If I knew there are people in my class that love like Warhammer or whatever, I would give them tasks like that all the time, just to be a bit have some fun, you know.
Each hive world could contain anything from just 3 to 5 up to as many as 20 hive cities. They do also contain manufactorum, which produce vast stockpiles of war material and other goods for trade and supply within the Imperial tithe or tithe grade. This of course is the requirement a world must supply to the Imperium. The size of this tithe will depend on the type of world to which it's applied, and this could be food, weapons, minerals, even people. Whatever the Imperium requires they supply, then they must meet that demand by any means necessary.
That sounds a bit... No, it doesn't matter.
The logistics of this, given the scale and time differences across such vast distances, makes it often a confusing and difficult process to properly manage. Astartes or Space Marine worlds are usually exempt from tithes and given a grade of aptus non. But if you thought the outside of a Hive world was dangerous, then the inside is hardly an escape. Poverty-stricken, crime running through them like a plague, and almost always polluted, and that's before you get to the Underhive. The lower levels of a hive usually contain mini war zones controlled by violent gangs.
At least they use geothermal heating. They're like kind of eco. They learned from polluting the planets to shit. They now use thermal energy. Oh man. But jokes aside, hive cities are very interesting. And their name alone is like it makes you think of insects when thinking about the people here, which is very dehumanizing in a way, and I love it. I love the name.
The most notable of this type being the hive world of Necromunda, which incidentally the Imperial Fist chapter actually recruits from. The lower portions of the Necromunda hive are rife with gang warfare and ruthless bounty hunters. Lower levels of hives often also are the refuges of mutants and heretical cults who hide from authorities there. Assassins could also hide here to escape the gazes of these authorities. The scale of citizenship within a hive though is difficult to believe, and each of those citizens is a potential soldier for the Imperium of Man.
Yes, how do they recruit though? Why would people go into the Imperial armies? Is it to serve the Emperor? Or why? Is it money? Is it honor? What is it? I mean, it's surely different for different individuals, but what are the main things? I would assume those are the main things.
While their ability to produce munitions and other resources is important, their biggest production capability is simply manpower. This resource can be used for recruitment by the Imperial Guard, colonization of new planets, or any number of probably much more unpleasant tasks. While the workers in a hive might live in nightmarish conditions of industrial production and street violence, it will be no surprise that the higher classes actually live in upper areas of the hive with relatively affluent surroundings.
Yeah, all except for this ding-dong. You can barely see him here. But he's shit-faced. Like, why does he look like that? Is that a ceremonial mask? I mean, the guy he's like helping up or throwing down doesn't look happy. Then we've got this weird, I don't know which period it's from, but it looks a bit like a French or English noblewoman. We've got a weird scribe dude is that a blade on the quill? I don't know. And we've got the vampire dudes. They look peachy. We've got weird man with glowy eyes here, and we've got this dang dong who has an axe, and we've got good Anthony Hopkins here. Pretty nice. I mean, good that he survives.
For those higher class citizens, facilities might even include gardens and, most importantly, clean air, food and water. A few worlds in the Imperium have even gone beyond hive structure to create super hive worlds, the most notable being Terra itself. Where the planet once known as Earth is now, what replaces it is an ecumenopolis, that is a planet-wide city.
Ecumenopolis. Though it's a made-up name, I love it. And yeah, we've heard this one in the last video, in the Pilgrimage to Terra video.
That would also stretch deep underground. Near solely dependent on imports from agri-worlds for its food supply, they represent an impressive but simultaneously precarious state of industrialization and development.
War worlds.
An easier to define planet, these are planets the Imperium classify as war zones. And as the famous 40k tagline states, in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, there is only war.
Wow, that
The
looks so
Imperium is
dope.
constantly battling for control of various important planets and territories. While some are saved, others burn or are abandoned, the inhabitants condemned to undoubtedly horrific.
That poor Tyranid. It once had a brain. Now the Imperial Guard has the brain all over him, though, and not in his head.
Fates. They
Poor
may be
Tyranid.
ruined by orbital bombardment spanning many years, to a point where it's even questionable the purpose of such assaults.
I mean, couldn't they? What's the difference? And I think I know the difference. I don't know why it's there. What is the difference between orbital bombardment and exterminators? I might do an exterminators video. So, how is that? Like, is the exterminators just stronger because I know that rips apart the planet's crust? And orbital bombardment is like scratching the surface, literally. So that's probably just the scale, I guess.
The Imperium might wield massive armies that are going to grind their way across a planet's surface over extended periods of time in vast wars of attrition.
Yeah.
These hellish deployments make up the main focus of Imperial Guard service, and it's not something that you would wish for. Mercenaries may also appear to engage in small but dangerous missions, hoping to leave alive and with payment.
Yeah.
Often this kind of experience for an Imperial Guardsman leads to, unsurprisingly, deserters of the Imperial Guard, and escaped prisoners form bands of pirates seeking a way off of a war planet.
Very nice. You get new servitors from that.
Knowing that literal lobotomization and servitude awaits them otherwise.
Yeah,
Execution
see?
in many cases would
I know
probably
my
be
lore now.
preferable, so they're extremely dangerous to anyone who encounters them. Some of these groups are humans turned feral, losing their minds and being completely broken by the unimaginably nightmarish experiences they have had. If they do manage to escape the planet now, unable to then return home to Imperial worlds, they'll form a pirate's life of scavenging and assaulting transport ships. Bounty hunters and mercenaries may again be employed to hunt down the most dangerous or problematic of these groups.
Just a question that just came up, like, because they're running away. Couldn't they run out of the galaxy? Are there warp corridors there? Like, what is around the galaxy? I have seen hints, at least dropped from some of you, that there are Tyranids perhaps around the galaxy. That's a theory, a hypothesis I have heard. But do we know?
Sometimes colonists from Hive worlds will be sent to repopulate war planets that have been stabilized, willing or not, allowing their repopulation and hopeful redevelopment.
Okay, so suppose you are sent to a planet to repopulate with 1 million people, and every year the population doubles because you do so much fun stuff. And how many years? I'm sorry.
A challenging
Exponential functions always here.
task for planets that have often been thoroughly reaped by decades of war and with little if any remaining infrastructure or ecosystem, often as well littered with the dead and sad destroyed ruins of previous habitation. As with anything in the Imperium though, the grinding bureaucracy keeps everything in perfect slow motion. It could be years, even centuries, before a successfully held world begins the process of repopulation. The Sabbat Worlds are an example of the edge of Imperial control, as the Imperium would attempt to wrest control of them from the forces of chaos.
That's not that many worlds, actually. It's probably just the main ones, though.
Notably, the blood god Khorne. The Sabbat sector is named after a young girl who reportedly received a vision from the Emperor and who subsequently would lead a crusade to bring the region into the Imperium. That initial crusade began in Millennium 35, lasting around about a century. But by the 37th millennium, mankind was well established throughout the Sabbat sector. Due to its proximity, though, to dangerous border incursions, it was continually contested with Xenos and Chaos threats. This would lead to it soon being designated troublesome by the Imperial Administratum. These small incursions would merely be the beginning of its problems, though. During the 41st millennium, some initial assaults which were thought to be normal Chaos incursions quickly deteriorated into an attempt by Chaos to take control of the entire sector.
Oh.
The Imperium hadn't intended to lose this area, but were quickly overwhelmed by the size of the attacking forces.
Do they do that sometimes? Do they retreat? Because the way he phrased that just now implies that they sometimes retreat so that they calculate that they lose something but might gain something somewhere else for that.
Chaos would take full control of the area eventually, and this area would then be reclassified as hazardous in the year 741 of Millennium 41. The centre of Imperial control in the region was forced to evacuate, and the whole region lost to the dark forces of Chaos.
Wow, she looks pretty cool. Like, her design is really nice. Also, the Emperor's Eye with the Eagle of Death or Bat Eagle of Death thing. And I like it looks very Padma-like. She looks a lot like Padma. Very cool design. Him as well, like, though he's a bit more like out there. I still like it though, and I also really, really like Anno Londo in the background again. Yeah. Or Hyde's Tower, whatever.
An ongoing crusade of war persists to the current day to free the Sabbat sector from the chaos darkness that has enveloped it.
Is that a corrupted titan or is that just a demon? It looks to have a fleshy body, but that looks so cool. It's like a Mecha Balrog. It's like Mecha Balrog against Psyker Gandalf. It's so funny.
Disturbingly high losses have been noted by the Imperium attempting to liberate this region. Now, the Imperium of Man will undoubtedly be ultimately victorious, given its already heavy commitment of forces to the Sabbat campaign. The only question is, what will be the cost to retain this sector, now having been in a state of war for roughly 3,000 years?
Yeah. Oh, now we go to
Fortress
Cadia.
Worlds are planets in the Imperium that are bastions. They are heavily defended with vast numbers of Imperial Guard and Navy assets at their disposal. Their sole focus is defensive, and they are actually uncommon in the scheme of planets across the Imperium.
Oh yeah, so it confirms it basically that they have the space around Cadia under control as well.
All inhabitants on a fortress world will be committed strictly to military levels of discipline, and the whole place will be run to machine levels of efficiency and order. All citizens there will function with the timing and strictness of a military unit.
Yeah.
Cities located here are vast bunkers with thick defensive walls, punctuated with artillery and ground-to-orbit firing systems. Their industry obviously is nearly entirely focused on the production of munitions and related materials.
Yeah.
The conscription here for PDF or Planetary Defense Force is usually permanently enacted.
Or for a format of using text editor, whatever.
Many Imperial Guard families on Fortress planets
I know that was a
proud
bad joke, I'm
and
sorry.
documented histories
That was
of their
really bad
entire
one.
families being in service from near cradle to grave with no exceptional break. Imperial soldiers from Fortress Worlds are well studied in tactical doctrines and some of the most well trained in the Imperium.
Yeah.
Often they are specialised in countering the forces the fortress was established to defend against, and they are some of the most fiercely loyal in the Imperial Guard and much less likely to break in combat, unlike say recruits forced into service from Hive worlds.
How is the relation between people who are specialized in fighting a certain enemy's force, and how much general knowledge do they have? Like, is it that normally they are equipped to fight everything and have base knowledge about all potential enemy races? Or is it that they like are very specialized all the time? Like, because I know the was it the Blood Angels that always fought the Tyranids? I know some Astartes chapters are like very focused on dealing with certain enemies, but is that the case for all the others as well, or like how is that? Or is it just some are like this, some are like that, or is it more common to be a more universal piece of cannon fodder as an Imperial soldier?
Fortress soldiers also have a strong regard for integrity and duty. The firepower from a fortress world is often extreme in its power and
the
range.
angel again.
The fortress world of Morlond, once captured by Chaos, the Imperium would feel the other side of these powerful bastions. Morlond featured powerful long-range weapons that could lay waste to worlds already reclaimed by the Imperial Crusade in the Sabbat region.
That's so cool.
But then comes Cadia. one of, if not the most famous of fortress
Yes,
worlds.
yes,
Once
yes.
an Earth-like planet with a variety of biomes and established
Yes.
healthy ecosystems, it unfortunately stood as one of the only Imperial planets that stood at the passage of the Cadian Gate. That is the passage to the rift in the warp known as the Eye of Terror.
Yeah.
The Eye of Terror is the gateway for chaos to enter into the material universe, and the proximity of Cadia required the population there to heavily fortify their planet or face complete destruction of their world.
Yeah.
And it would become the first target of the War Master Abaddon, one of the most favoured champions of Horus Lupercal during their traitorous campaign against the Imperium during the period of heresy.
Is Abaddon a demon, or is he a corrupted space marine soldier or leader? What is he exactly?
Abaddon would launch heavy assaults every few
I love
centuries
this
from the Eye
design.
of Terror, with Cadia square in the path, hoping to reignite his heretical campaign that they had once attempted and failed to claim victory from.
It is so interesting. This sounds like Abaddon is the one doing this, and not the Chaos God themselves. Perhaps they are more primal, more indirect in their ways, but it's very interesting that it's like this human enemy they fight. It's not like this weird eldritch force they fight, which like they fight it, but in the background. You know what I mean? It's so interesting. Bit weird.
Having been lost to chaos during the heresy, Cadia was resettled by loyalist colonists in the 32nd millennium. But they would discover the planet contained strange, dark pylons that would dot its landscape.
Yeah.
These would later be revealed as Necron constructs to hold back the psychic energies of the Eye of Terror, and was an ancient Necron base during their war with the Old Ones.
Ha! Yes! Frick yeah! I know my freaking lore now. I start to get the stuff. I'm so happy. Ah, that's so good. I got that. You all saw me get that. You were here when I got that. Now I'm happy. I will be very sad in a moment because they will all die again, but I'm glad. I'm glad I picked that up.
The fortification of Cadia meant the near entire population lives in fortress cities known as the Cassar, leaving Cadia with an odd landscape of vast urban fortresses and unspoilt natural environment. This apparent stability, though, would not last. In the 13th Crusade by Abaddon in the year 999 of Millennium 41, Mechanicus Archmagus Belisarius Call would ally with the Necron Lord Trazyn the Infinite to attempt to defeat their shared enemy of the suppurating chaos forces from the Eye of Terror.
Trazyn! My dude! Oh, my dude, I love Trazyn so much. He's such a cool guy. I think he's my favorite character in the whole lore. Might just be because he's the only one I read a book from. But, like, the book was awesome, one of the best books I've read. And he's so cool. I love his weird Pokeball shenanigans and his trolling. And that he went together with this Archmagus or whatever to, and the Archmagus or whatever he was Mechanicus, so that is the story in itself. I'm interested, like, how did they interact? Like, Trazyn probably trolled him, but I know Trazyn hates Mechanicus with a passion. We know that from Infinite and Divine, at least if we consider that a canon, like, a real account. And wow, that's so cool. So Trazyn was there. Yes, he was there. I'm pretty sure that the Catan fragment told him he was supposed to go to Cadia. I thought that was after, but yes, of course. Of course, it makes sense. Oh, I love this. I love this so much.
This alliance of Mechanicus and Necron would attempt to close the Eye of Terror with the Necron pylons on Cadia. Abaddon, though, blindly enraged and frustrated by the defiance of the humans
and the trolling of Trazyn
on Cadia, would send to destroy them a Blackstone fortress. And a Blackstone fortress is a giant alien-constructed star fortress first used by the war between the Old Ones and Necrons during the War in Heaven. But these craft would be subsequently used by the Imperium and Chaos. They were awoken during one of Abaddon's campaigns and then appropriated. So Abaddon would send the fortress crashing into the planet like...
Is it... So, first question, why don't they always just do that? Like, they could just reroute the moon and crash it into planets as warfare. Because, like, they clearly sometimes want to just make sure that nothing exists on that planet any longer. So why don't they do that? And I think they might not do that because they've got the Gela shields, whatever they're called, and stuff like that. And that would hold off most stuff. But this one here is perhaps because of its engines, it disrupts stuff in a way they don't understand. I'm just making stuff up now because I just don't know. So yeah, so they crashed it into the planet's surface, and then GG mates. And Trazin was like, oh Jesus, bye buddy, I will take a next one.
Like some kind of catastrophic artificial meteor strike.
Yeah. That's so bad.
The immense energy released from impact wiped out the bulk of Cadia's defenders and destroyed the network of Cadian pylons, as well as severely damaging the planet's structural integrity.
So sad. By the way, he did not mention that Chaos invaded them first.
Millions of citizens were evacuated, but the planet's loss was immeasurable. The fall of Cadia was a significant victory for the forces of Chaos, leading to the formation of the Great Rift.
Cicatrix Maledictum. Interesting.
A huge tear in space emanating from the Eye of Terror. The few survivors from Cadia formed a fragment of Imperial heroes escaping destruction of the Cadia fortress.
She looks badass as well. That design is so fire.
They would escape with the help of a new faction of Eldar known as the Armories. Using the Eldar webway, they would form the Celestian Crusade, and in this alliance lead to a new hope for humanity with the resurrection of the Ultramarines chapter Primarch, Roboute Guilliman.
Oh, they did that then. Oh, that's so cool. They resurrected the Anari, yeah. I've heard the Anari mentioned several times now. I'm not that sure if are they their own chapter yet, or is it just a group of renegade Eldars with a crafts world? Perhaps a crafts world. I think I remember they have one. I'm not sure, might not have one. And they like allied together. That's so cool. So that's how that happened. I wanted to know all the time, and now I know. Should I do him next? Should I do a Guilliman video? Please let me know. Yeah, the beat. Love it.
Now, as we continue on with the lore, guys, there's plenty here to get into. I would love to flesh out some of this a little bit more, but if...
Okay, that was it. Thank you, Luetin. Thank you so much for this one. So I'm actually very, very glad I did it the way I did, because the first video delved more into details about this. And by the way, I know there is a book about Cadia, or a book series, and I'm very inclined to read it actually, because I really like this. And now knowing that Trazin is there, that told me already, like, favorite character currently. Though there are many badasses, but because I have seen a whole book through his eyes, or half a book, I like, he has a special place in my heart. The first fleshed out character I got into contact with, and then such an interesting and well written one, at least in that book. So anyway, yeah, Cadia, very tragic, though the planets, and so we got some more lore there as well. So yeah, I will probably do Guilliman next, and after that I might do some science stuff, like, do you want me to react to some Warhammer science? Because as you know, I'm a physicist and a psychologist a bit. So if you want some stuff as seen by a physicist or astrophysicist or quantum physicist, whatever, like, I do those things, and let me know then. We might look at stuff as well, because I think someone suggested, and I still, you know, I have my list where I keep all of your suggestions, and it's still on there. But if you want me to do that one, let me know as well. Yes, so that was the video, and if you like this, like the originals, of course, like this video here, if you like my reaction still here, please consider supporting me on my story again. And yeah, perhaps you're interested in my Amusia stuff as well. Let's just see. Can't wait to play that. Anyway, I don't want to keep you here for too long. Please, as always, take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next video. So, yeah, see you soon. Bye.